Welcome to Between Two Clinicians, the podcast that gives you a backstage pass into the mind of two therapists. I'm Talia.
I'm Adam Luke. We've spent years helping others navigate the complexities of their minds and relationships.
In this podcast, we're flipping the script, and we're sharing our own unfiltered insights. No topic is off limits, and no issue too taboo. We're ready to tackle the tough stuff with honesty and empathy. Let's dive in. We were talking about what it's like being in your 30s and trying to have a staple meal item and it goes poorly in your family, or being nervous for an exchange day, both of which result in diarrhea. So
Absolutely.
Yep. But now we're here and we're going to talk about, ironically, only you and I are close enough to be able to share those things. Today's topic is somewhat similar, so I'll let you take it from there and then we'll jump in.
Well, so today's topic, it comes out of, I think both of us deal with this with our clients quite often. And so we're switching up a little different today. We're actually talking about those who are getting out there in the dating world. You're sort of scrolling through the profiles, and then you see that one profile that pops up that he or she says, extremely close with my family. So how close is too close when we mistake enmeshment for closeness? That's sort of where we're at. Trying to understand that there's a difference, because you might be sitting there thinking to yourself, well, how is there a difference? But you've experienced this undoubtedly, where you start off and wow, it's like the Hallmark family. They're just, everything's perfect and close. Then all of a sudden the system starts to make requests, right? There's those silent obligations that step in. There's all of a sudden you start to feel different levels of expectations that are placed on you. And all of a sudden you recognize that the homeostasis is actually based in a hierarchy.
It's a similar vibe to when you first work at a company and it's like the old Olive Garden tagline, like, when you're here, you're family, or like, oh, it's like family. Very good. Like, if you take nothing else from that and you just generally project on the statement, like, oh, we're like close like family, people could have a very different interpretation of that. If you grew up with a healthily close family, your interpretation would be like,
Warm,
wow, that's great.
inviting.
Warm
Sounds
and
wonderful.
inviting, supportive. But people are like, oh, it's like family. They'd be like, flashbacks, like
Yeah. All of a
siren,
sudden the helicopter noises start. Fortunate Son
right? And
starts
you're just like,
playing.
oh God, it's like a reverse That's So Raven moment where they're like, I don't want that. So the ideology or the phrasing of like, it's as close as family. When you're here, you're family. It's like family here.
Mm-hmm.
That might not be a positive or warm description for everyone, and it's a misnomer, I would say. So seeing it on the apps, I especially am incredibly skeptical, because the first thing I flash back to is I've done this dance before.
Yeah.
I've done the cute happy family where everybody looks good on the outside, but they're a little too close and you don't find out until it's too late.
And they're
Or yeah,
seething with passive aggressive
oh,
behaviors, right?
yes,
So like
or they're
every
close. Yes, they
oh
will
yeah.
be close. You are an outsider. Even when you're married,
Oh
don't
yeah.
think you're gonna be in that close family. That's
You're
another
the
thing.
person that stole their person from them.
Yeah, you're not breaking into our inner circle, right? It's like they're gonna stay that way. They're in their inner circle, you'll be here. No,
Yeah.
never shall you permeate the cell membrane to be as part of the inner circle, and that is I think, that one of the core parts of delineating closeness from enmeshment. An
Oh
enmeshed
yes.
family, or a family that has far too diffuse boundaries. There are no
Yeah.
boundaries. There's no hierarchy. There's like some Oedipal complex that hasn't been resolved yet. They see an outsider as a threat, whereas an
Mm,
actual healthy, close family would
yeah.
see that as, wow, this person as part of our family system wants to make another person as close as we are, or wants to bring them in. Yes, there's going to probably be some
Yeah.
joshing around and like, can you
Of
handle the
course.
family? Just like any culture, right? Just like any place you visit with a different culture, you'll get adjusted. But the end goal is you adjust into the closeness and you're part of the inner circle, typically with more unhealthy, close, i.e., enmeshed families, or where there is a hierarchy of, we don't actually want you in the family. Like, you're dating our son or our daughter, but that's
Mm-hmm.
all we'll see it as. I'll never view you as a daughter-in-law or a son-in-law. That's the unhealthy part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
About that.
Mhm. Yes. And there are no set roles. in an enmeshed family, so I'll share an anecdote. I went on a date and, this and I told my therapist about it, and she was like, "That's a good." I think the way she phrased it was like, "That would have been a deal breaker for some people," because the guy was describing a situation where he had a boundary setting discussion with a family. I'll
Mm.
make it very general. Boundary setting discussion with a family member that I was like, "Oh, that's hot." Like, that was a turn on the way that he described it, but that's a me
Oh,
thing.
your boundaries.
Right, right, because my history was, I wish my ex would have said that in that
Mm.
situation
Or
in his
stood up
family
for me.
system, right, or stood up for me. So I that is a positive translation for me. He could have gone on a date with another girl who could have been like, "I can't believe you told your family member off like that, blah, blah, blah. I would never tell my family." So it ironically was a very good, filtering question for both of us. It could have been a total red flag had I still been enmeshed and been like, I could never imagine saying that to my so and so, whoever. But for me, I'm like, hell yeah, I would totally have said the same thing. We're the same level of individuation. That's the key also in filtering enmeshment versus closeness. I can stay close with my family, but I've individuated from them and I don't do things to seek their approval or to choose their emotion or their well-being over my own or my marriage or my partnership.
Mm.
There's a consideration there because they're the family I came
Yeah.
from, but if I really love someone and wanna start a family and did start a family with them, and barring, like, red flags, but it's just like, "Well, I don't like that they wanna do things with their" we say it all the time on Instagram, "They wanna do things with their in-laws instead, and you never spend time with us," and it's like, "No, we do, but their in-laws may be
Mm.
planning more. If you guys plan more, we'll come." "Well, that shouldn't be the case. Before you met them, blah." That is the toxic dysfunction versus going, "Wow, they look close. I'd also like to be close. Let me plan activities to give an opportunity to get close." So that
And
can be too.
maybe this is where I, like, differ
Yeah,
from
sure.
everyone because the way that I think about it is so, like, enmeshment is one of those, like, words like, narcissist
Yes, right.
or gaslighting.
It gets
We
thrown around a
love to
lot.
use them, and
Yes,
then we don't actually have, like, a definition to them. So,
yes.
like, how I see them in this context is enmeshment to me is the emotional, outsourcing for emotional containment. And so,
Mhm.
like, you'll get this a lot with families that are super enmeshed
Yes.
is, "Well, we've gotta do that because she's mom. We've gotta do that because she's dad. You've gotta do that because it's your brother." You've
You
got,
have to
like
ask so and so first before you.
there's all these things that,
Right,
like, and what it really is it has nothing to do with the action that's being requested.
right.
It's more focused on this individual is uncomfortable with the emotions they're experiencing, and they're asking for you to be
Yes,
the one that mitigates or changes it. The
right.
reason why we get even more frustrated in this is because you and I don't have the power to change other people's emotions, feelings, and experiences.
Nope.
Like, the best thing we can do is just show up in a healthy manner, and
Right.
that should influence how people are doing. If we're surrounded by other healthy, functioning individuals,
Yes,
generally our day goes by a little bit better.
yes.
But I can't say I was the reason that day was perfect, right?
Mhm.
So it's the same reason why people will come to you, normally moms. Oh, can you call your brother? Can you do this? Can you? There's always this emotional outsourcing.
Mhm.
And then you actually do pull the rabbit out of the hat. And
Yeah.
guess what? That individual is still upset,
Yes.
you know? And before everyone jumps on me, dads do it too, right? I think parents are like
Parents.
the repeat
Yes.
offenders, and I
Agreed.
have to pay attention because I'm a parent. Like, I don't want this to slip in.
Yeah, no, I
But
get
this
it.
this becomes like almost intellectual laziness where it's
Yes,
like, "Oh, I've been always been able to get these people to do what I want because I am a parent," or whatever it is. And that's the real struggle you start to see in these relationships is what happens when parents go from parents to colleagues. It happens. At
yep,
some point in time, the parental dynamic shifts. You get to actually enjoy the human being you've created and you've raised, and you get to sit there and you get to be colleagues together.
right.
But in the enmeshment model, there's always this hierarchy, and then there's this struggle of never being able to fulfill the needs of the hierarchy because I'm given impossible tasks.
Which translates into when trying to create your own family system with its own hierarchy, its own system,
Yep,
that if I'm still this is not a literally defined, but the visual
true.
I'm trying to elicit is like if I'm still glued to or married to
Mm,
my family of origin and deferring to them, making decisions based off of them, can't assert my independence without feeling guilt or shame, either internally or having it be placed upon me, somebody trying to guilt me or
mhm,
shame me for a decision that's like, "No, this is what's best for me," and they're like, "But that's not what's best for me." The mother-in-law thing, the
mhm,
father-in-law thing. When I struggle with that, I can't actually make my own system because if I'm trying
mm,
to partner with somebody who's it's kind of like the attachment. If I'm
yeah,
enmeshed and I'm trying to partner with somebody who's enmeshed, it's never gonna work because both of us are still glued to our family of origin. If I'm enmeshed and I'm trying to partner with somebody who has individuated to varying degrees, if it's a new individuation, they might get sucked back into their old family or join the enmeshment of the new family, or if they're very like years out of individuation, they've moved out, they don't call their parents for everything, meaning like to make decisions, they just basically update. They're like, "Oh, I'm going to France." "Oh, great, sounds good." Whatever it might be that they're not doing these constant updates.
mm,
You don't have difficulty making decisions without other people's input. You don't defer to your family of origin instead of your spouse. Those relationships often don't last either because
mm-mm,
the individuated person, much like the secure person, would see enmeshment, much like insecure attachment, and go, I don't want to do this anymore. I like you. And if you can change, right, attachment style
yeah,
or enmeshment level, this could work. But as far as I'm concerned, or even on the beginning in dating, if you're not able to prioritize this relationship because
yep,
your mom doesn't like me or your sister doesn't whatever, I don't I'm trying to date you. I'm not trying to date your whole family. We've done numerous episodes where yes, family is a part of the in-law system, but at the end of the day, it's your new nuclear family that you make that needs to take priority and precedent over
mm,
family of origin, and it's a big ask. It's a very vulnerable shift to make of going, "I've
yes,
known them my whole life. I'm making a new family with you." Ideally, we do that with someone. We get to that point with somebody where they're worth the risk or they're willing to take that jump. And we can tell, even screening on online dating apps, I've told so many guys, I'm like, why is your mom in every photo? This is creepy. Unless it's the as seen on my mom's fridge, love that prompt. I think that's endearing. But there's some guys where I'm like, I can just clock enmeshment immediately. Or one of them was shirtless at the beach, and it wasn't like he just ran a marathon, and his mom was, like, leaning into his chest. It almost gave creepy vibes, and I showed a colleague, and they're older, and they're like, "Oh, how endearing," and I'm like, when did you last date in the 1900s? Like, this is not endearing. This is creepy to me." And then I showed all of my other friends around my age, and they were like, "Yeah, that's creepy." And maybe it's just a view thing, like a bias.
well, you've got those devouring moms, you do,
That's
they
yeah,
do
yeah,
exist,
yes.
and, you know, baby boy has never been allowed to grow.
Correct.
And he's always been number one. He's always been the best, and basically, no one will be able to love him as much as I do, right? And that
Yes.
becomes a huge challenge because I've seen it both ways. I've seen it one where maybe that man has a massive blind spot, can't see it, and then I've seen it the other way where they're actually fighting for autonomy, and
Yes.
that's actually probably one of the key demographics I work really well with is
Yes.
men who are finally differentiating in their life and then they're having to establish boundaries for the first time and they're getting massive pushback.
Yeah.
Why? Like, I'll never forget, I had one gentleman, he was rock solid dude, had a great steady job, like the most financially put together dude in his 30s that I know of. Um, and he just let it slip one day when we were, because I do all my sessions virtually, right?
Right.
So we're doing a session and his mom bursts into his room, right? And I'm like, whoa, like, oh, your mom's over? Like, oh, is she in town? Like, I don't know how this is. And he goes, oh no, it's Wednesday. She comes over and does laundry. And I was
Your
like,
laundry?
yeah, his laundry. And I was sort of like, there's a part of you, this is the hard therapist poker face, right? You want to burst into laughter,
I would be like,
but at
"Oh,
the same time I was like, oh, tell me more. Like, I'm trying to understand here. And he just said, oh no, my mom would always do this. He lived 3 hours away in college. She would drive, pick up his laundry, drive home, do it, and come and bring it back to him. But this has been like, again, this is a learned process. This is a blind spot. I said, "Do you know how to do the laundry?" And he said, I don't." I said, "Who bought your washer and dryer?" He's like, "Oh no, I bought the washer and dryer my mom wanted." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And I was like, "Wouldn't you want to know that? Like one day," like I said, I hate to say it this way, but one day mom's not gonna be here. Like,
Fair,
and
yeah.
you're in a process where you're also telling me you're really looking for another person to join you in this life. Like everything that you're capable of, impressive. The thought process that you can't meet your own needs in this way. He said, I just never thought about it. She's always been offering. Well, as he decided and he moved into a healthy relationship, and as it started of like, oh, mom, can you give me a call before you drop in? Like, oh, can you do all these things that previously it was a blind spot. Hey, I'm a bachelor in my own place. I don't care if my mom drops in. Oh, you brought me food? Awesome. Like there's and so, yes, people can sit there and try to shame the guy for what it is, but what it really was is, oh, I've never had to develop this for myself. So we have to pay attention to like as we're raising our children, that we don't inherently make them dependent on ourselves. And there are a lot of people out
Mhm,
there
mhm,
that they are so afraid of what that life transition will look like when you are not a primary parent,
mhm,
that they actually in a strategic way handicap their children so that you will always need me.
mhm, mhm. So, yeah, I think taking a moment to highlight the signs of enmeshment, but also their impact on development, and you and I wrote some notes on this that I think for people to have, like, if you can read this and get a pen and paper or pause this and get
Mhm,
your notes app out, the some of the top signs of enmeshment instead of closeness, where it, like,
mhm,
teeters to the other side, is when your family members or you feel responsible for each other's emotions and make decisions based on, "Well, how would this impact so and so?" Much deeper than a general consideration of, like, "Oh, so and so let me know Wednesday is their best night this week to have dinner. I'd like to have dinner with them, but I could also do it Tuesday. Screw it, I'll pick it Wednesday." Like, it's different than being considerate. It's almost like
mm,
you cannot make it without thinking of how it would impact the other, not like it's a consideration, but you'll eventually make the right decision
yeah,
for you. You feel guilt or shame, or you are guilted or shamed, and somebody else tries to put that upon you when you make decisions or you act in ways that are asserting your own independence. You have difficulty making decisions without family input.
mhm,
This is not the same as I need a sounding board. I'm kind of running through some things. I have a great family that I'm really close with, and they're very skilled at being able to not tell you what to do, but hear you out and ask questions that help you to decide. But if you were to ask, like, well, what would you do if you were me? Because I've known them so long, they'd be like, Talia, come on. So that's, again, different than I can't make a decision for myself. And
yeah,
then the last piece would be that privacy and having your own
mm,
individuality, your own sense of identity and self
of
separate from
course,
family is incredibly discouraged or shunned. And if you were to pick a partner who furthers that or has their own,
yeah,
that that's the best outcome. Hey there, listeners. Are you tired of settling for less than you deserve in your relationships? Do you ever feel like you're not being seen, heard, or valued the way that you want? Or maybe you've been wondering why you keep attracting the same kinds of people into your life, or why certain patterns seem to repeat themselves in your relationships. The answer might be deeper than you think, and you can find it in my new course. Rewire Your Relationships is a transformative course designed to help you stop settling for less than you deserve and start embodying your most confident, assertive, and authentic self in your relationships. You'll explore how your early experiences and parental influences have shaped your views on love, dating, and self worth. This isn't just about tips and tricks for dating, it's about understanding the core beliefs that drive relationships that you attract. You'll learn how to break free from those old patterns and start creating the kind of connections that truly reflect who you are. Imagine stepping into a relationship with clarity and confidence, knowing you're attracting people who value and respect you for who you really are, your deeply authentic self. The Rewire Your Relationship course gives you the tools to rewrite your relationship story, one where you're no longer settling, but thriving. Visit taliabombola.com/rewire your relationships or check the link in the show notes for more. The highest indicator of enmeshment is if I don't get to have my own authentic self, and if I feel like if I picked a partner who would encourage me to have more of my authentic self, I'd be further shunned from the family system. So those are some of the signs, and like you were alluding to, if I'm from a generation parenting where I never got to have my own sense of self, or I
Yeah.
had to mute my sense of self, I might be more likely to elicit or to, encourage enmeshment, I guess, in a
Yeah.
s family system, because I don't want to be this is all subconscious for the most part. I don't wanna be abandoned, I don't wanna be alone. I'm always used to having a lot of people around, that's the way that I was loved, why would I do it any differently? A lot of those reasons are the main tenets why enmeshment can come true if it's always been that way in a family system. Why
True.
would we think to change it?
Well, there's also this extreme guilt on the other side
Yeah,
of like when you were saying everything, I was like, oh, I don't want to be the bitch. I don't want to be like, I don't
right,
want to be a whiner. I don't
right.
want to like, oh, I don't want to make it about myself. It's a phrase that's used on us by others to make it about themselves. But
Yep.
it's interesting how it plays out. And I think that that's a great like intellectual speed bump of, wait a second, if all of a sudden my desire to differentiate has me walking through character assassinations, that kind of highlights I'm maybe not in a healthy system. All right. Like something that I've noticed is with my couples, I've got a lot of like couples that are just getting married. We've worked together, they're getting married, they're starting to have their own family. And something that's interesting is it feels like every time in a session that I hear about like the first family vacation, it's like, oh, okay, let's talk about expectations. What's this going to look like, right? Like, oh, my parents are flying us to Hawaii, and oh, they got a villa, and it's like this sounds wonderful, absolutely. And I'm not against families, okay? So, some people out there like, oh, Adam's hating on families. I
Yeah,
love families,
me too.
but I believe that there has to be this unconditional positive regard, mutual respect that's present in them to really be enjoyable. And a lot of times, what I'll hear is this family vacation is maybe 7, 8, 10 people coming together to make sure that two people have the vacation experience that they want, right? Oh, well, mom wants this, dad wants that. This is what the and so all of a sudden you have all these individuals that aren't necessarily working together to have quality moments together. They're working together to try to make sure that other people feel exalted in that position. So,
Mm,
like, something that I'll say is like, "Hey, it's wonderful. You guys aren't always gonna have the time to be in Hawaii or wherever you may be. Are you guys gonna take a date night? Oh, well, the family dinners are really important." And, like, I get it, but you're gonna be there for 5 days.
and take one
Like
dinner, yeah,
can you take one dinner or can you take a lunch or can you take well, and that's where you'll hear the enmeshment. Oh, well, the mornings as a family, we're sitting down, we're finding out what's going on, what
right,
things we're gonna do, and then, oh, can't do it in the evening because the family like, oh, well, how do you guys recharge? Like, you guys have finite resources, right? Like you're
yeah,
taking 5 days off of work, okay? So you're burning vacation time to go on this. Like, how's it feed back into you 2 feeling rested, reprieved, and ready to return to life?
right.
And that's when you like, "Oh, no." How many times do we hear it? "Oh, I need a vacation from my vacation." Start paying attention to what you're saying. You're telling me right off the bat, I basically moved to a random location and didn't serve my needs for 5 days, and now I
Mhm.
feel more depleted.
Yes, and if it's like a one-time annual what have you, but the rest of the year is pretty respected in terms of the
Of
individuation,
course.
3 to 4 days of enmeshment, and then maybe adding one in, and then each year getting better about it, being like, "Okay, here's what we're signing up for." I remember talking about this with one of my therapists earlier last year, probably it was middle of last year, and we were talking about family systems and what would have to change, and without going into it more, it was beautiful. She gave off this whole list of everything that would have had to change in his family system for it to actually work with how I think my individuation, and I'm not saying my family's perfect
Yeah.
by any means, but just, like, literally talking about what would have to change between us, me and his family, him and like, it was the
Yeah.
longest list, and I was like, "That's a lot of work." I was willing to do
Yeah.
it, but me being willing to do it or facilitate that on the behalf of my family with him, right? We're the ambassadors of our
Yeah.
own family of origin. I was ready for that because I know that's what marriage can take sometimes.
Mm,
I could not, answer for him, and I knew from the limited but, telling information that I had,
Yeah.
that was not what they were gonna agree to, because it was so counter to everything that had ever been in their
Yep.
system. I was not the same religion, I was not the same that like, I was too much of an outlier, and it makes sense if you think about a whole
It
system being
does.
like, "Well, everybody else that is married into it has been the same, this, that, and whatever. You're way too different." It's easier to just cut out the weakest link in that sense, meaning the most, like, differentiated link. We can just stay the same. It would take
Well, they
all of
have to
that to have
quarantine you,
change,
right?
right?
Because
Yeah,
you're bringing in the hostile threat of critical
yes.
thinking,
And
right?
individuation
So
and
so
saying
wait
no.
a second, we can't wake up everyone else in the system.
No,
Well,
exactly. That's not I would like it to stay this way, and I didn't want it to stay that way. So I think enmeshment or unhealthy dynamics can create a situation where you're projecting in the beginning, let's like from like dating app and beyond, asking key questions instead of projecting, because
mm,
projections are assumptions that somebody does the same thing for the same reason we would, can lead down a slippery slope where you're dating or in a partnership with the fantasy version of a
mm,
person. And so asking specific questions or seeing specific patterns emerge, a close family is most people's goal to marry into, or at least like a if you'd like to be close because you're also close with your family, typically you pick somebody who values family. That's what I see a lot in the profiles,
mm,
like family-oriented, values family, cares about my family. As long as that eventually also includes you, that is a good green flag that it's not enmeshed and it's actually a system that has room for more to get close instead of it being like a club that you beg to get into, but you're never
mm.
gonna be good enough for. And there's a natural order. Even as we see this in group therapy, if new participants join, where everybody else is like, well, you're new. I don't know if I can share the same level. I used to run groups, and it would be like the week after a
Yep.
new person joined, all of the shit, which makes sense, all the sharing and vulnerability that was free flowing for the whatever 6 weeks before. People are like, I'm
Yeah.
good. Like, who is this outsider? There's a natural, settling in period when a new member becomes part of a new
Mhm.
system. Close families can tolerate that more, and their eventual goal is to see you like family. Enmeshed families see
Mm.
you as a threat to the pre-existing family,
Oh,
unless
yeah.
you meet all of those criteria where you won't disrupt the system.
Mm.
And unless the person who's inviting you in can defend you to their family of origin, it likely will not last. One of the top books that I recommend for couples that I work with, as you said, it can be father-in-laws too, but to my knowledge, and I'm deep in this on Instagram, I have never once seen the father-in-law be the problem. I'm owning it. If somebody comes back and messages, "I found this account that talks about it," please let me know because I would love to see it. It's typically always the mother-in-law because they don't wanna feel dethroned by the
Mhm.
son's new wife or all that maybe she's more progressive that she never got to be, the list goes on. It's mother enmeshed men. So the book is, yeah, Mother and Mesh Men, How to Help Adult Men Open Their Hearts to True Love in a Romantic Relationship. The author goes over like 8 archetypes. It is so
Mm.
helpful to your point. It talks about the ones who have no clue, and it talks about the ones who are like, "I've wanted to escape this for years. I just don't know
Absolutely.
how." So if you're listening to this and you're like, "Why do I keep falling for people who are enmeshed?" You
They've
can
been
also
trying to
look
dig
back.
out of prison with a
Yes,
spoon.
right? It's like prison from your own family. If you find yourself the dater finding picking people like this, what is it about that fantasy for closeness? If you didn't have a close family growing up, you may mistake it for you also may mistake enmeshment for closeness. Or
Yeah.
if you did have a close family growing up, enmeshment can look like a healthy, close, happy family on the surface till you start to see those communication dynamics.
I don't think I have anything else to add. I think, like, you pretty much just wrapped it up right
Could
there.
could we add on how to have healthy boundaries, though? I think that might be a good closing.
Absolutely. I
What would
mean,
what would you recommend for people who are like, "I don't want I don't wanna be enmeshed anymore," or, "I don't wanna keep finding people who are enmeshed." How would I have healthy boundaries?
well, I think you nailed it with how you sort of tied it up in a bow there at the end, which is if you're saying that you have a desire to have healthy boundaries, you have a desire to have a healthy functioning family dynamic, then you can't start off with a crap one. And I
Mm,
think that that's a lot of times people get into this mindset of I can fix it or I can make adjustments. And that's probably the most self defeating thing about systems is systems mean that things are already in place for the dynamic to already exist.
right.
And you coming in and thinking that you're going to change those dynamics, I think that that's what happens is people will say, I really like certain aspects of the person that I'm dating. I really enjoy them, and then it becomes this ultimatum of choose me over your family, right? Like at that
Mhm.
moment you become just as tyrannical as the family system they're trying to escape, because essentially you're saying there's an ultimatum here. And that's why I love choice. I love just leaning into ownership, because I get the most work out of my couples when we move into the position of ownership. Like, hey, whether you're being silent or you're being distant, like so you're telling us that you don't want to take that action. The action that your significant other is asking of you, you're doing through strategic inaction. So, how are we going to navigate this? So, I think that the boundaries is actually say what you want and hold yourself accountable in the process. Like, to your point, I've sat with many individuals, whether it's men or female, who they dated a person that they thought was just like cooler than sliced bread. They got in, they got to find out about their families. They were like, oh, I don't really like this, but I really want to be with this person. And so they kept on sort of shaving off aspects of their own integrity. They moved into the enmeshment with this thought process of like, oh, eventually I'll be able to give enough that the system will change. I said, no, eventually you'll give so much that you won't recognize who you were in the first place. And so the hard part is sometimes recognizing that we can absolutely love an individual, but their family dynamic, the things that they're happy with, like it doesn't compute. And it doesn't have to be a morality complex. It's just a simple, I can't meet you there. That's not what I want for my family. I'm not going to ask you to change for me because I think that that's even more malicious. But if you wanted to do life different, I could see myself doing it with you.
Yes. It makes me think of a closing note I'd like to share that there is a gift in being able to stay long enough, not too long, but, like, long enough to go. Because it happened to me where I'm like, "Wow, I finally found someone where I can be, like, my full authentic self," and originally felt accepted for my full authentic self, but then
Yeah.
when the system started realizing, "Oh, we're not going anywhere," like, the pleasantries didn't have to be shared, and there were more, like, real discussions of, "That's great, but here's how I want it to be in our marriage and our raising of our children." That's where a lot of it was like, "Oh, it's actually my authentic self is not welcome. My authentic self was only welcome when I was more of a." Not I'm definitely not a people pleaser, but I was far more into the, like, "Wow, this feels nice as one big happy
Yeah.
family," but they never really brought up deep, serious topics, which is my favorite thing to do, but in my head, I'm like, "We're only there, whatever, every so often, it's okay." As it was like, "Oh, this is getting serious, like, this we have a family now." That's when I noticed,
Mm,
"Oh, it's my authentic self actually isn't going to be welcome." So then I would feel awkward
yeah.
and regress and then be like, "What's going on?" Everybody's like, "It's fine." And I'm like, "Okay, so we're just gonna add, like, gaslighting on top of this? Like,
To your
interesting."
point, like it's I hate using the word interesting this much, but
Yeah,
it's interesting
yeah,
that like this. So I could see how maybe in certain situations you've navigated, people are like, "Oh, she's the ice bitch, right? She's quiet, she's shut down."
yeah,
And at the same time, I have to sit there and ask the question of like, what has the system done to make her feel included?
right.
Right? So that's like the chicken and the egg situation that pops
Yes,
up quite frequently is like, oh, well, they don't seem like they want to be here. While they are like continually ostracized from everything. They can't get a word into a conversation. They're not included in certain just
yep,
natural dynamics that break out in households. And so this person starts to feel more and more like, wow, I'm essentially like lawn ornament. Like
yeah,
I'm here for the picture. I'm here so
yes,
that you guys can feel really good, but I'm not included in any of the intellectual conversations or the emotional intimacy of being a part of this family.
right,
And it's just an interesting situation when people will turn and be like, well, she's always acted like she hasn't wanted to be here. And I like to check people up. What have you done to make that person feel included? I'm not saying this is always the dynamic. There are people that show up and they do not want to be a part of a
Right.
system. You know, they bring a lot of their previous traumas with them in the process. But I would say that's actually like more of like a 1 out of 10 than it is a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, and I would
But
show up. Yeah. I would
I know
yeah, I would
you're
show
a
up.
pretty personable person, but
I am.
if
I'm like, I would share and chat and ask questions. I would show up, and I remember talking to his sister one day after a whole thing, and she was like, "Well, we don't really know you." And I'm like, "I've been in your lives for 4 years at this point. I constantly ask how everyone's doing, what are they up to at work, anything new in their lives, health stuff, like, genuine, and this wasn't fake, like, genuine
yeah,
interest to keep up with it, but you also didn't ask about my stuff either. So is it just my role then?" And I remember at one point, whether it was genuine or not, the sister was like, "I know how you feel. I felt that with my in-laws family. I'm like, sorry I made you feel that way. I get it now. Like, I'll get better about it." That lasted maybe
yeah,
weeks. So it's there's something to be said for if you like the close family that you think that you're getting into and you can be your authentic self, also be
mm,
mindful of how much your partner supports that ability to bring authenticity, both of yourselves,
yeah,
into their own family system, and does it feel like
mm,
they want to actually get to know you as a person, or like you said, you're just kind of so and so's partner, so you're there because of that, but
yeah,
if you weren't so and so's partner, you wouldn't be invited to stuff, and I've lived that because I still didn't get in, but not that I'd really want to go at this point, but I'm, like, still the mother of your child, but I don't get inclu okay. Like, to me, I would still at least give the invite, because if it's all about looking like a happy copacetic family, probably should try to keep up appearances. It makes them look worse than anything, but this goes again to that closeness versus enmeshment. If there's a
mhm,
threat to the outs like, if the outsider is a threat to the system, they will stay enmeshed, you will not be. But if there is a joy of, "Oh my gosh, this person that we're close to loves this person enough to wanna bring them close," welcoming them in with open arms, I
yeah,
think that's a green flag for see how it pans out. Still keep your guard up in the beginning, knowing
mhm,
anyone, but be open, have your eyes open to not projecting if it's closeness or if it's enmeshment. Go back and listen to those red
mhm,
flags and those green flags. Do they bother to get to know you? Do they want you to be included?
correct,
Do they respect your authentic individual self?
absolutely.
And do you feel like there's a genuine positive regard that can be mutual? I think that's a key part too.
I
Yeah.
mean, another way of looking at it is when you go to meet someone's family, it's very much like dating a family system,
It is.
and
Yeah.
it should feel like a first date and
Right.
less like a physical exam, and I think that that's
Yes.
where a lot of times it goes sideways is there's this then, like, forced vulnerability, like, "Oh, we get to inspect you," and it's like, "Nah,
Right. No.
that's not how that works,
Yeah.
but would you like to get to know me?"
Mhm.
And to your point, if people are sitting there and saying that they don't know who you are, and you've spent seasons with this family,
4 plus years,
it
yeah.
really is the honesty of, "We don't really want to get to know you," but there's
Right.
always gonna be some artificial threshold that
Or we know you,
you
but we
didn't
don't
jump
like
through
you.
the Oh, I think for you, it was one more hoop to jump through.
Yeah.
You know, it's like running the waiter, where
Yeah.
it's like, "Oh, can you get this? Can you get
Yeah.
this? Can you
Yes.
get this?
Yes.
Can you get this?" And it
Yes.
has nothing to do with any of the tasks that they're giving you. They're literally just being
That's us.
malicious through actions.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
And because that one inevitably, that one time you're not gonna be able to fulfill a request, then it doesn't matter how hard you worked in the last 15, requests.
Mhm.
They're going, "Oh, see,
Yeah.
she doesn't wanna be a part of us."
It's always
I
her
would
fault, yeah. Never
"No,
never
thank you."
once bothered to be introspective. It was there something I did that caused this? Which I, knowing the answer was no, asked in that conversation. I was like, "Have you and I, just the 2 of us, not through
Yeah,
story of how I am with your brother,
yeah.
have you and I ever had a situation where you felt like you couldn't come to me because of my reaction at you specifically?" No.
Mm,
Same thing with the mom. Then
What are we doing here?
then why would you're not trying to get to know me, because in
No.
my view, I can have an independent relationship with somebody separate
Yep.
from a system. I would
Correct.
like individual relationships, not just it's me and the whole system,
That
and that
makes
could have been
sense.
a differing school of thought, but that's also a green flag away from enmeshment. I don't have to be
Mm,
close like this to everyone in your family, and I could have a preference. I only
yeah.
have one sibling, he's my best friend, but if I had multiple, I'm sure at seasons of my life, I'd prefer to be around one for one reason and another for another reason. There can be varying levels of closeness within I'll close on this. There can be varying levels of closeness within a close, like, healthily close family system. It doesn't mean you'll get along all
Mm,
the time, but it almost feels like with enmeshment, it's like this cell, this amoeba, right? This, like,
of
thing
course.
that it's like you're the same level of closeness with all of them or none. It's very black or white. Like,
Mm,
you can be close to all of us or that's
yeah.
it. Whereas if it's like, "No, but what if I just get along with this person more?" I would try and make
Yeah.
efforts, with the parts of his family, and I'm just like, I'm not gonna try anymore, and you're also not gonna have my back on this, and in fact, gaslight me that nothing was wrong when I overheard you talking about me in the other room, like, I don't wanna do this. That's not
Yeah.
healthy at all. So keeping in an
Whenever that significant other chooses sides and it's not
yes.
our side, there's an right
Yeah,
there,
that's it.
no,
No, and that's what
unfortunately.
you'll see that's what you'll see across social media is the devouring mother, the mother-in-law, and there's
Oh,
books
yeah.
that we can link in the show notes for this concept, but a close family is something that I think is admirable. It's something we can all work to have.
Mhm.
Closeness does mean I'd eventually like you to be part of this. The dysfunction, the
Correct.
investment, and the rigidity is like, "That's nice, you can date this person, but they're still ours." And so just keep an eye on that
Yep.
when you get that vibe on dating apps also, or if they're, like, obsessed with their mom and their mom still does their laundry and they don't know how to, kind of a red flag for me personally. So more to come, I'm sure. If you listen to this episode and resonate with it, please, DM us. I'm at Talia Bombola, Adam is.
At Wild Ethos Counseling on
Uh,
Instagram.
so let us know if you liked it or if you've lived this story, and we can follow up further in future episodes.
See you guys.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Between Two Clinicians. We would so appreciate if this episode resonated with you, for you to share it with somebody, and also find your favorite podcast platform and like, rate, and subscribe to the podcast. We would love to attract more listeners just like you and have this message be spread to whoever needs it. So thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.